I looked at my phone and saw a notification that President Trump had tried to illegally pressure Georgia's Secretary of State into finding 11,780 more votes to change the results of the election. A few days later, on January 6th, as I was in my office preparing remarks to defend Georgia's electoral count, I was told to lock down and to shelter in place. And there I sat for hours and hours with my sister and a couple of staff as we followed on TV and through text threads the mob attacking the Capitol and the narrow escapes of many of my colleagues. I was one of the first of my colleagues to call for impeaching President Trump, because there was never any doubt in my mind that he had incited that crowd to march on the Capitol, to try to block the vote to certify the election, and to keep himself in power. That night, as I walked past the broken glass, through the eerie, empty halls to certify the election of Joe Biden as the next president of the United States. At some point during these events, Majority Leader Steny Hoyer turned to me and said, "I bet this wasn't what you expected when you ran for Congress." And I told him that actually I ran for Congress precisely so that I could be standing at this place, at this time, to take this vote, to certify the election, and to defend our democracy. And I know that many of the people who supported me in the 4-year effort to flip Georgia's 7th congressional district and to deliver Georgia for the Democrats worked so hard and sacrificed so much, in large part because they too saw the danger and worried that President Trump would stop at nothing to achieve and retain power. While there are many other important issues at stake, fundamentally, we saw our efforts as a rescue mission for our country. I know that many other Democratic frontliners saw their efforts the same way, and I know that some of my Republican colleagues who took brave votes at great political risk shared our concerns. So for those who are cynical about our politics, who believe that it is all about corruption, money, and power, and yes, there is a lot of that, please know that many people of integrity, courage, and talent in both parties and in many different roles worked hard for years to be at the right place at the right time in this particular moment in our country's history so that they could hold the line to stop the forces of chaos and autocracy and renew our democracy for one more turn of the wheel. I want to recognize the sacrifice of my family and thank my husband, Jeff, and my son, Nathan, who encouraged me all along the way. I want to recognize my sister, Margaret Bourdreaux, who threw herself into helping me day in and day out, and my aunt and uncle, Margaret and Howard Arbuckle, who stood by me when both my parents died in 2017 and told me I could not quit working for change. It was too important. I want to thank my many supporters whose persistent acts of courage and sacrifice allowed me to have this brief but very important time in Congress. While the preservation of our democracy was always top of mind, we accomplished quite a lot on other fronts, including the American Rescue Plan, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, the CHIPS Act, and the Inflation Reduction Act. Also critical to the 7th District was the PPP Extension Act and almost $18 million in community funding projects that will allow the restoration and preservation of our community's Black history, that will support critical early childhood education programs, that will promote small businesses and innovation in economic development and infrastructure, and that will support a vast array of much-needed mental health and other social service programs in our rapidly growing community. To my staff, all that we have accomplished would not have been possible without you. Thank you for your hard work and dedication, and I look forward to seeing what you do next. To the residents of Georgia's 7th District, thank you again for the honor of representing our community in Congress. And Madam Speaker, I yield back.